Hi, I'm Melinda Kucsera, and we're back with fantasy lore and more. And today we're talking to JE Pittman, and we're going to
Right.
be hearing about Felix Chance, Volume 1. So tell us, JE Pittman, tell us a little bit about the book Felix Chance, Volume 1, and what can we expect?
So you can expect chaos, first of all. Felix Chance, Volume 1. It collects the first 24 episodes of my serialized story on Kindle Vella by the same name, Felix Chance. It collects the first three arcs that I've done uh, By Chance, Game of Chance, and Strange Chance. They're all thematic. Um, I describe Felix as a walking Twilight Zone with a dash of Doctor Who. So strange and inexplicable things just happen around him, and the audience is taken along for the ride. And he may or may not be telling you the truth, or the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, uh, or just lying through his teeth. You never know.
Let's meet him.
All right. So we start off with the first story, Mallory's. People will eat anywhere, it seems, so long as the food is tasty and, more importantly, they don't have to make it themselves. Or, so I found out when the sneezing man led me to Mallory's. I looked up from the counter briefly to see the line of apparent customers snaking out the door before dashing back to the kitchen lest it all catch fire. I don't actually work at Mallory's or any restaurant and only sort of know what I'm doing. Well, I can make soup, a smidge of salad, but definitely not breadsticks. Grilled cheese and tomato, Molly called from the counter. That I can make. Ayo, I responded, sliding an aforementioned salad through the window and grabbing some bread for the slathering in a single motion. Most of the ingredients had been left prepped when I found the place, but I still had to hunt things down like a cheese slice. Cheese, cheese. Are you cheese? I sifted through the fridge stocked by someone else. Aha, cheese, I said, peeling off a slice of something white. The door opened, and from outside came an overly loud achoo that likely could be heard on the moon. Who needs a billboard when you've got the sneezing man? Best advertisement there is. Got me stuck behind the counter, slinging soup and slathering bread to sizzle on the griddle. It was a novel idea, Mallory's. Let me rewind a bit. You know how you walk down the street, minding your own business, when suddenly your stomach rumbles, and while you're thinking about soup, a guy sneezes, and you look up just in time to catch a restaurant out the corner of your eye. And you go in said restaurant, and it's entirely devoid of human life. But all the tables and chairs and plants are there just waiting for customers and maybe some stuff. No, just me? Okay. Strange. Thought it might be a more common thing. How's the gazpacho coming, Felix? Molly, sweet Molly. Mallory's second customer and first employee. Because I guess I hired her. More like she had an idea to run with as people streamed in the door. I pulled a can of red and a can of veg I'd left chilling in the freezer and dumped them in a bowl, sprinkled a little parsley on top. Presentation is everything. She grabbed and dashed, and I flipped the grilled and added the vitamin cheese. Achoo! More people came in, and came, and came. How many people come to a restaurant that isn't even open? At no point did I put an open sign in the window, yet people kept showing up. We had no cash, no register. Molly had the bright idea to focus on being cashless. She had all the app thingies and one of those pixely codes. People loved it. I just wanted some soup. Now, now I'm saddled with a restaurant. By right of salvage, I guess? Who leaves a restaurant stocked and unattended? I heard ghost kitchens were a thing in COVID times, but they didn't have tables or chairs. And who watered the plants? Were they ghosts too? A cop buddy of mine told me once he arrested some guys smoking pot out behind an IHOP. Turns out that IHOP was run by a grand total of three people at 1 o'clock in the morning, and all three of them were out back smoking. Oops. Probably not pot, I crossed off my mental list. Hmm? Molly cocked her head. Just wondered why the door was unlocked. It was strange. Who cares? She grinned, dimples showing in her cheeks. We're up $1,000 so far. No shit. Guess people like soup. Glad I caught you now, aren't you? Red-handed, in fact, from the tomato. She'd walked in as I took it upon myself to make a bowl of my own, since no one was around to do it for me. She'd asked for lentil herself. I'm sorry, I don't think we have any, I had said when she found me in the back. I tried to excuse myself, leaving the soup to fend for itself, but she blocked my path. You don't work here, do you? Her blue eyes pierced me as her auburn hair flipped about while she confronted me. Are you raiding the kitchen? Her tone highly accusatory. Are you Mallory? I'm sorry, I'm famished, and you weren't here, and the door was unlocked, and everything was ready. I trailed off my string of lame excuses as she began to laugh. Not Mallory. She left the proclamation hanging there as she appraised me, the kitchen, the whole situation, arms crossed as she thought. Molly, she said, suddenly following up. And I'm hungry too, duh. Where is everyone? Aliens? I meaned. She giggled. It sounded like sweet tinkly bells, I thought, but it was the door. Achoo! Be right back. She brightened with what I now knew was an idea forming. Hi, she beamed. Welcome to Mallory's. And she began conning the new arrivals into sending her digital money. Apparently, this was a grand idea, and counting. What kind of cheese was that? Molly popped her head around the corner. 12 wants to know. Who's 12? I drew a blank at her question. Table 12, she said, growing a bit impatient. Grilled cheese and tomato. Said it was the best grilled cheese ever and wanted to know. The tables have numbers? I was still a few steps behind the conversation. I knew most eateries numbered them, but hadn't thought these had such. Besides, Molly was by herself out there. Maybe I should hire another customer? I numbered them, she said, as I mused the idea and dismissed it. The situation was slightly abnormal, and questions... Hey, excuse me, I got to pick up for Tollison? The DoorDash guy interrupted. Hello? Are we? Did you? We stepped on each other as our eyes snapped to. My mouth worked agape for an answer that didn't come. Molly to the rescue yet again. Oh, sure, she charmed back out into the dining room, excuse me. I'm sorry, our app is glitching. Which one was that? I leaned close to the corner to hear. The rude dude I now intensely disliked sighed and annoyedly flicked his phone for a second to look. It says here, vegan patty melt with a side of onion rings, extra mustard, diet soda. He listed off all the things I didn't have. Oh dear, Molly sweetened her voice a half octave higher. That's just all wrong. She grabbed his phone and examined it closer, leading the dasher to the door. They must not have updated our menu, she faded away. Achoo! Open and shut. Well then. She returned chipper and bright, having dealt handily with the problem. Cheese? She quirked her eyebrow, returning to the previously scheduled topic. Cheese, I shrugged. Cheese is cheese. For the sake of our friendship, she clutched her wounded heart, I'll pretend you did not just say that. She swept her hand melodramatically to her forehead as she winked and left. We're friends? I had no idea. Note to self. Don't bring up lacking cheese knowledge in front of Molly. Orders came and went as the day wore on. The soup cans ran low. People were still achoo coming in. Should I run to the store? Maybe there's an app. Hey, Malls! I called her Malls to see how the nickname tasted. Don't call me that, she snapped. What? Sorry, I flinched. We're out of soup cans. Among your many apps, is there one to summon more? The back door clicked open just as I finished asking. Our heads snapped to see a pair walk in most unassumingly and then stop cold. Frozen for a moment, we all stood there looking at one another. Obviously, they hadn't expected anyone to be squatting in the restaurant and, likewise, taking unawares. We were busted. Shit. They moved first. The guy took out a knife. Oh shit, oh shit. We're here for the sink, she said as he silently began cutting the caulk from the backsplash. For this, not separating me from any of my other parts, I was grateful. Okay, I said matter-of-factly as I motioned Molly back to the dining room door. Sure, go ahead. I was done with it anyway. I trailed off, backing away even though there were still dishes in said sink. Knife dude turned the water off last I looked. Molly and I passed through the bustling dining room full of soup eaters and salad munchers and gooey grilled cheese savorers, not making eye contact and not stopping for the questions that followed us to the door. Achoo! We both jumped as the man who began all of this snapped our two wound springs. Molly yelped. Bless you, I told the man on reflex as I checked behind us to see if the sync repo team was coming for us next. Thank you, the sneezing man said. Been sneezing all day and not a word from anyone. He shook his head and walked off, his curse apparently broken with my blessing. Molly and I shared a look and kept going. After a bit, we broke the silence. What the hell was that? We lost it, laughing until we collapsed on a bench. This attracted many stares, but we just couldn't care. Exhaustion set in, and I just stared at the passing clouds in silence. The sun would soon set on this weird-ass day. Most delicious grilled cheese sandwich ever, she read, bursting with sweet flavor and extra gooey goodness. Paired with a pedestrian tomato soup. 4 stars. Yelp. Always with the apps. I shut my eyes. Yep, Molly nodded, though I could not see. Munster, she guessed. Cheese. I risked her feigned wrath. I guess we can't do it again tomorrow, she said, instead a little half-hearted. I don't think Mallory's has a tomorrow. Sadness, and it showed. It was a shame, really. I've done lots of odd jobs here and there, pickup work, gardener, handyman, mechanic, even a house painter, though that did not go exactly as expected. The restaurateur was a first. That had been fun, and I got a new friend out of the deal. I looked over at Molly and saw her for the first time. Really saw her. Saw her without the distractions and constant flood of adrenaline rushing through everything. She really was sad Mallory's had no tomorrow. Her stomach rumbled as embarrassment switched places with sadness. Did you ever eat? No, she admitted. I forgot to, like in the rush of it all. Well, let's go. I popped up from the bench, hunger renewed. Go where? I swept a right bow and offered her my hand. Why, anywhere we don't have to make the food ourselves. And that's Mallory's. First story in the Felix Chance adventures.
Wow, that was fun. So they just found the restaurant, I guess the restaurant was closing down or something, and all the things were still there.
That's the only thing I can speculate. I actually found a place like that, and that's what inspired the story. I was
Wait. So this is inspired by a true event?
Uh-huh. I was sitting at an art market. Nobody was really coming around, and there was a restaurant. It was inside, and in this fabulous old building, which appears later in the stories as well. There was this former restaurant over to the side, big glass picture windows you could see in, and it was empty. I kept waiting for it to open, thinking, this would be great. We'll get a lot of foot traffic, people coming by, whatever. Chairs were there in place, tables ready to go. There were literally plants still in there, green, waiting. It looked like it could be open any second. And then the story just started spinning out from there.
And it never opened.
Never opened.
And you
I
didn't
finally
walk
saw a
in.
sign. I didn't walk in. The door was locked. I saw a pizza box by the entrance at the bottom of the door that said, this location permanently closed. Very not prominently placed.
And you wondered if all the things were still in place, if there was still food in the fridge.
Yep.
That's pretty wild.
That's what Felix is all about. All the strange things that happen, you stumble on in the everyday that most people just look over, don't even think twice about.
So there's not something unique about Felix. It's just that he sees things that we take for granted and goes one step further instead of walking by as we would. Or
that's how it started, but there is something very unique about Felix, which we get to in the second volume, and as we learn more through the first volume.
Okay. So we can't talk about it because spoiler.
Yeah, I'll give you a little taste, though, from the back cover. Luck is his greatest skill, Felix Chance. Born on the last day to exist, Felix roves the world untold. Mystery hounds his steps as he unlocks his secret past and seeks the love he left behind. What's real, what's not. Felix knows more than he'll ever tell. A moose walks into a bar. Bigfoot's drunk it dry. And that fox over there, it's not. Fairy traps and pumpkin scraps, plus an immortal or two met along a stolen day. Step careful in the world awry as chance guides your way, or be lost.
Okay, so let's talk about this day that shouldn't exist. What is a day that shouldn't exist?
October 4th, 1582.
And is that because of the calendar change from, was it Julian to Gregorian?
You got it. Got it in one. Also, coincidentally, my birthday, October 4th, but not 1582.
I was going to say, you look very well preserved for that.
Well, so does Felix.
So he's actually was born in 1584.
Mm-hmm.
How is he still alive in the current day and age? That's what the story seemed like it was set in, since there's apps and.
So that's a lot of the second book. He's going through history and figuring out all the lives he's lived and not lived. And he basically changes his face every little while.
How does one change their face? By
Oh,
prosthetics or magical means?
They slip into the twist and just muck about with their face and come out looking different.
What's the twist?
The twist is kind of the what if perception. Like one molecule twisted differently and you suddenly don't see or suddenly are not recognized. And you can kind of, mess around with it.
Like those quarks, they have their own spin. There's top and bottom. And
Yep.
if they were to switch, that completely can change things. Or the handedness of many molecules. Bit of a science nerd.
Same. A lot of my stuff straddles the border between science and fantasy. One of my other series is actually a science fantasy because it has fantasy trappings, but it has science underpinnings, very much like Dragon Riders or something like Terry Brooks or something like that. But that's not Felix. That's a different series.
So is the twist the only way that Felix's series straddles the line between fantasy and science? Or is there other areas?
The fair folk are involved. Sasquatch, who I call Sassy Pants, is involved. Molly is something special herself because she interacts with Felix. Felix, at the beginning of Volume 1, has forgotten who and what he is, so he claims. So he roams about the world. Weird things just happen to him. He doesn't know why, or he says he doesn't know why. We later learn why, and kind of get more of a control over it, more predictability. But when I started writing it, I just had these little snippets of ideas, like the empty restaurant, a Fey hotel, stealing some guy's coffee cup and a clipboard and pretending to be building inspectors, getting this old cool building. And Felix came about as a way to link them all together in a serial. So all these strange things happen, and Felix is the only commonality.
But that wasn't enough for you, so you started delving deeper to find out, all right, why is this going on?
It's never enough. That's just how my brain works. I tried to keep it light and simple, and then epic backstory.
We need some dramatic music for that.
I mean, when in the second arc, he meets an immortal alchemist. So I kind of had to start going back in time and like, okay, well, where did he meet the Count of Saint Germain? And why is he like this old friend and showing up at the blackjack table? And, well, when you get alchemy involved, the immortals are commonplace. And, it just kind of grows and grows and grows.
So it took on a life of its own. Or Felix did anyways.
Totally did. Spun out of my control.
So this is Volume 1. How many volumes are there?
Untold. I have about 10 more titles. So as many stories as I can get out of it.
So is only the first one published?
Only the first one's published. The second will be available beginning of August. It is currently releasing on Kindle Vella in the serialized format. Uh, Volume 1 is the first 24 episodes. I just published number 54, I think, 53 or 54. And it will be, the second volume will be wrapping up end of June, and I'll be able to publish it beginning in August.
Oh,
I
that's
want to have it.
great.
I want to have it in time for Dragon Con. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. It's just this is such a cool idea though that it started out with just some interesting ideas that you had linked together with this man who seems to be around when every implausible event happens, and then he took on a life of his own, his backstory, and now you're like, okay, now he was born on October 4th, 1584, a day that
yes.
doesn't exist because of the calendar shift.
Oh, and
That's so
there's even
wild.
more depth with that.
Do tell.
So they didn't shift the calendar. There were actually 10 stolen days. They had to come up with a new calendar just to cover up the theft.
Okay, so how does one steal 10 days?
Well, this is where the science nerd part comes in. Yeah, how do I explain it? Did you ever see the mad Russian scientist in who got sent to the gulag? I cannot remember his name. 1930s, before the atomic revolution and everything. So he was left to invent his own science based off of Einstein era stuff, the findings there. And he came up with this theory that, you know, time is a expression of energy. You know, it is a not a continuum, it is a constant. And it's just we're observing it in the continuum. So when you bring that in and the experiment they did in the 80s in the Arctic with curved mirrors and trying to capture time and weird stuff happened. I like to look at fringe science stuff and esoteric things to get ideas. So at that point, I decided it should be plausible to steal time and hide it in clocks. So there are 10 different clocks in the world that have stolen time.
What does stolen time look like? Like when it's in the clock? Is it a crystal? Like how did
That's getting into spoiler territory.
Oh, okay.
That is because some of it's hiding in plain sight. And if I tell what it's hiding as, you might see it ahead of time.
Ah. Is that in volume 2 is that revealed in, or is that something that's coming in a later
It's
volume?
uh, elements are hidden in the first volume. Um, the sixth chapter of the third arc, I think. I wanted to do those time travel episodes of sci-fi shows. Like my favorite episode of Stargate is the one where they live in a time loop, and you've seen all the time loop stuff where like you have the protagonist just like living the same time over and over and over again. I wanted to do a story like that, but have Felix be the outsider who stumbles in on the guy stuck in the time loop and eventually breaks him out. So he finds one of the clocks there. I will say that, but the other thing is hidden in plain sight.
Okay. So one of the days that is in this clock might be the day that Felix was born.
It is his inheritance.
What do you do with that inheritance?
The second book.
Ah, okay. So we've got to read the second book to find out.
The second book is called Second Chance. If that kind of primes you.
Since it's called Second Chance, does that have something to do with his lost love?
Yes.
Because that's a
He
big
is
romance
going back
trope.
and reliving and remembering his life. But he's kind of trapped.
So does that mean there's like some historical stories or historical fantasy elements in there?
No, because that would have to be factually accurate. So I take the vibe of historical and just sit him in place
I
and
see.
kind of place him where events might have happened and people might draw conclusions. See, the great thing with Felix I love is the open, not really open endedness, but the room for speculation, for fan theories to run rampant, for people to get in debates over and take what they will, imagine the story beyond its bounds.
So you say that the story is like in the style of Twilight Zone and Doctor Who. Is that the episodic nature?
Yeah,
Not, he doesn't have a TARDIS or the
he does not have
equivalent
a TARDIS. It is a technically an urban fantasy, and he does deal with a lot of legendary creatures and things. You've got, like I said, Bigfoot, an immortal alchemist,
vampires.
um, various other creatures, including one kind of very nasty goblin-esque cross, a bloody bell. It's based off of the red caps.
Mhm.
Very vicious little, not fun creature. Um, you've got something I based off of those Furby Long Boy memes where people take those Furbies and make a big plush snake like thing. That turns out to be the size of a train and cleaning
This
subway tunnels.
the size of a train?
Yeah, the
Wow.
mom is.
And how does she hide in
She's in the
I guess she's
twist.
living
People
in
can't
an
see her.
urban environment.
Yeah, she goes and cleans out subway tunnels, essentially, eating junk.
She needs to come to New York.
Oh, I'm sure she's been there.
Not often enough. Still filthy.
Yeah, we need more of the Rokuichi running around just to clean stuff up.
Yeah, that's so cool. What about
Yeah,
vampires?
no vampires, not yet. There's a lot of lore left to deal with. Uh, I do see. I get a lot of my inspiration and impetus from memes. Um, and if you've ever seen the Twinings tea meme, over 300 years of experience, oh, there must be vampires. Well, that might work its way in.
That's I never thought of it that way, but now I'm not going to be able to look at the Twining tea the same way again.
Right? That's just the fun of it. It's very loosely structured. I did write it episodic, one because of the nature of Kindle Vella. It is an episodic platform. It is made for short form content done serialized. I wanted to make small stories that you could read like sitting in car line or and waiting in a doctor's office or anywhere you have 5, 10, 15 minutes to spend reading a short story. I wanted each of them to be self contained for the most part, but build on each other. So I wrote the uh, first arc definitely with that in mind. Stories are loosely connected. Then the second one kind of starts playing off of that, and it's more like a TV movie, if you will. So I did like season one, which is 10 episodes, 10 chapters. I did a TV movie equivalent, which is a three-parter, and it's about 7,500 words. And then I did a second season, 10 episodes that just keep building on each other. Now, the second book, I did more like a regular novel just because that's how the story worked best. I broke from that episodic TV format. It becomes more Quantum Leap at that point. He's jumping through his past and reliving stuff while keeping a concurrent timeline with present day. So I had to
That's
actually split it up into two viewpoints.
that's pretty cool. It'd
So
be
the story
interesting.
just keeps evolving.
No, and that's what good stories should do. So no, that's awesome.
Plus, it's just fun to write. That's the main thing for me. If it's fun for me to write, I'm hoping it'll be fun for people to read.
Does Felix get more honest or less honest as the series goes on?
I never tell.
Do
That's
you
the thing.
know? Is he lying to you too?
He might be. That's the big question of the series. What parts is he lying about? Which what what is the truth and what are the lies?
And is
Is
Felix lying to himself?
that is also a big part of the second one. That is a lot of self-deception and a lot of deeper themes that have really come to play in the second one. It's less fun and carefree adventure, more self-exploration, and it's like, why would he choose to forget? He intentionally chose to forget his life, and he found this one thing that he remembered made him happy. But it's like, why would he? Why would anybody ever choose to forget that happiness? Well, I explore that, and
That's
then I
really
hope to get
wild.
back to the episodic madcap adventures in the next arc. I have I have the ending of this one planned. I know how I want to transition back, so that's just been the main thing for me is just making it flow the best way I can in the writing and the reading because I'm writing it for a couple of friends specifically, um, and it's just had a broader appeal than I ever thought. So I started publishing it, and yeah, here we are.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And you said the second one is going to be out possibly
August,
is in August.
yeah.
And any dates for the third?
No, let me get finished writing the second. It'll be finished in the next week or two, I hope. I'm on finished up the seventh chapter. I'm on the eighth chapter, and there are 10 chapters. So I'm 2.5 chapters left.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's awesome. Is
And
there
they're
anything,
they're plotted and planned. I know what happens. I just have to make it happen.
any more spoilers you want to give out?
Um, Not really. I mean, I will say one thing people don't really expect. And when I wrote this, I wrote it intentionally. Nothing bad, lasting bad happens. Sure, bad things have happened in the story, but I create a world where it's fun adventure. It's not exactly cozy. There is peril and there are circumstances and consequences to the actions, but I'm not going to be that author that kills off your favorite. I'm just going to write nice, ongoing adventures. Like I
Yeah.
said, keeping a TV series mentality. One of the main
I
things.
and that's important. We need some authors who don't kill off the characters we love. I'm one of those people. I cannot kill the characters that I love. So
Oh, I can, and I do in many other series, but not this one.
I can't kill them because then I can't write about them, and I enjoy writing about them so much. So they're
That's fair. That's
yeah.
fair. That's also why I like comic book stories because then I can just kill them off and bring them back through some implausibility and other stuff. Loopholes.
I actually just realized that I do have a built-in loophole that I could actually do that. I could actually kill one of my favorites, and they wouldn't have to leave the story because his sister
Yeah,
is dead. And she's still in the story.
yeah, yeah. And it's like Felix. He's died any number of times, but he just remanifests because he's something bigger than everything.
And we're eventually going to find that out, or we don't know.
There are hints along the way. You can follow along and figure it out. I mean, it's obviously there's something weird going on when he's making deals with the Fae and runs into witches and given magic flutes and he's a drinking buddy with Bigfoot and he's literally robbing bootleggers with Bigfoot during Prohibition because Sassy likes his beer.
That's pretty awesome.
And there's a
So I'm
Sassy
guessing.
special shotgun with the trigger guard sawn off so he can actually hold it.
So is Bigfoot actually sassy, or is that name ironic or sarcastic?
Oh no, Bigfoot is sassy. It started off as a joke that just kind of took on a life of its own. During the first season, Molly, after experiencing, shall we say, paranormal encounters, um, deep dives into all the wiki holes and the rabbit holes on YouTube, and comes out wearing a Bigfoot World Hide and Seek Champion T-shirt, all into the cryptids, all into the odd things that happen. And she's like, okay, I'm sticking around Felix. Fun things happen around him. And I just kind of had a throwaway line that said, hey, maybe I'll introduce you to Sassy Pants himself. And that just became a big plot point.
That's pretty cool.
I love doing that. Just these little throwaway lines actually have a lot of meaning later.
That's very cool. That's like little Easter eggs.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of Easter eggs and allusions, and I guess the technical term would be foreshadowing if I was actually smart enough to put that in there on purpose instead of just writing it and then weaving it in later. That's my typical go-to is, well, I got this and I can just kind of take it here and we'll just go there.
I mean, I've talked to some other authors on here, and I do the same thing. We throw something in there because it seems cool at the time, and then later it's like, I actually need that. I forgot I did that.
I've gotten myself in trouble with that too.
Oh, we all have.
Yeah.
To be a fantasy author is to have written something that eventually you have to deal with later, and you're like, why did I do this? Why did I do this to myself?
This is also why Felix is an unreliable narrator, because he was lying. Somebody calls me on it. It's like, no, he was lying about that.
I gotta have an unreliable narrator next time. My narrator is very, very, very reliable. My narrator cannot lie, so I'm stuck with anything that they say or do.
I have
having to come back to it later.
I have a similar point of view character in one of my other series that's literally called The True Tales of Elliot Shaw, Adventurer. So everything he tells you is true and is the truth, even if some of it is selective, but it is true. So I cannot contradict myself when I write it.
Yep, same.
Which means notes.
Same. He shows up in every single book I write. So like I have to keep track of everything he does. Because
everything he does, everything he saw, everything he witnessed.
Yeah.
Because he'll come back and is like, that's not how it happened.
I mean, he can misremember things, but he's like soul bonded to the truth. So like his own magic will fight him, and it's very painful. It won't let him say things that it knows are not true. It only knows what his perspective is. Or sometimes it has some awareness of other events, but yeah. So I'm really stuck on that. I have to be very careful with. He's also my favorite character, so I write from his perspective a lot. So I'm constantly like, okay,
how it works.
Of course,
that's how it works. The most difficult ones.
Mm-hmm. They become our favorites.
Yeah. That's how I ended up writing. That's how I ended up writing from Molly's perspective for the second one. Fan favorite. And, well, now I have to write from the perspective of a 20-something meme, meme linguistics. I don't even know how to put it, but she has the meme culture for everything. Apparently I'm pulling it off. People haven't complained yet, so we'll keep going.
That's awesome. That's very awesome. Is there anything else you want to say about Felix or Felix Second Chance Volume 1 or the sequel?
Stay tuned. There's Volume 1, Volume 2 is coming out soon. I'm going to have 4 spin-off novellas in the works, again, from those fan favorite characters who will not go away. And I've also kind of everything I put out kind of lends itself toward the main storyline. Like I'll have one with the alchemist. I'll have one with Bigfoot. I have one with the moose. I'm planning. I have one that spins off of something I haven't even touched on, which is called the Saffron School for Confidence. And yes, confidence in the fact and the manner of con men confidence. So that kind of started in the 30s, 40s, where people were running grifts, and just kind of continued on to this day. So tricksters, abound.
Are those going to be unreliable narrators, or are they going to be more reliable?
They'll probably be more reliable. Felix will show up in some form or the other. That's the other thing. He's had so many faces, so many lives, so many names. They weren't all Felix. In fact, Felix's name, and I've kind of gotten away from it, but I had this whole naming scheme for the first season. Felix Chance is literally lucky good luck. Every other thing, Mallory's bad luck, the Byron Hotel, bad luck. All the chapter titles, all the places he goes are bad luck names. He has all the good luck. That's why luck is his greatest skill.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool.
I kind of ran out of bad luck names pretty quick, so I just kind of shifted. Heck, even Molly is not a good luck name.
Oh, it's not? I didn't know that.
Nope. Similar to Mal, like the Latin root Mal, like Mallory's and kind of Molly comes from the same derivation of that. There's Deirdre, and there's other ones that are just kind of cultural associations, but a lot of them are also just derivatives of Latin, Greek, Hebrew names that are just unlucky.
That's pretty cool. So we might get some truth about Felix in some of these side stories.
You might see him from a different light. And that's bad cool. Things probably will happen in those, just because, can't shelter yourself from the world forever.
And they're not Felix. Only he has the luck. So that would be on brand.
Yes. Felix has the luck to get out of it, and Felix has the luck to... The tagline for the second book, first was luck is his greatest skill. The second is going to be until I lose, I can always win.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I talk about, quirks of fate, chance, everything. It's like, until you see the cards face up, they could change. You don't know.
That's true.
The dice could have a different face on it under the cup. You don't know.
That's true. And maybe with a little magic, you can change them.
Yep.
This has been great. This has been great. So this has been fun. So Thanks. Thank you so much for joining me. And Absolutely. I'll have all the links below in the show notes. And yeah, that's a wrap for me. And I hope that you'll check out Felix Chance Volume 1. And if you're a Kindle Vella fan, check out Volume 2.
Yeah.
I'm Melinda Kucsera, an indie fantasy author, and thank you so much to our guests for coming on here. It means so much to me to talk to fellow entrants to the self-published fantasy blog off. This year is number 9. 300 books can enter, 10 will reach the semifinals, and 1 will be crowned the winner. My book, Cursebreaker Enchanted, is of course in the running this year, and I'm very excited about that. So I hope you're cheering it along at home. And I also hope that our guest today, that their book also goes on to the semifinals. We won't find out for many months yet, as far as I know. This is my first time participating. So if we find out sooner, I'll let you know. And if you want to be more involved, you can join my community on Patreon, where all podcast episodes are released early, and you can read the 10th and the 11th book in the Cursebreaker series, because I'm writing them both on there, and you'll get copies before anyone else, which gives you bragging rights, of course. And I'll have links to all of our guest books as well as mine in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much. I will see you next time. And yes, if the sound is better this time, it's because I got a new microphone and number 4 is the winner, I guess. I've tried 3 microphones before this. 2 of them wouldn't connect. One of them didn't sound all that fabulous, but this one sounds pretty good to me. So hopefully it sounds good to you as well. And hopefully I won't have any more sound issues that have plagued me in the past. I would like to return to reading excerpts from Chris Breaker Enchanted as well as other books. So it was really important to me to find a good microphone, and I think we might have finally done it. So I look forward to bringing you more fantasy, lore, and more in the coming weeks. Thank you so much. Have a great day if you're listening to this in the daytime, or a great night if you're listening to this at night. And once again, I'm your indie fantasy author, Melinda Kucsera. Thank you.